Okay, I should start the interview by saying thank you so much for taking the time out to sit down and chat with me. I suppose we'll start with Lily. So, how did your love of theatre begin?
That's a great question. My love of theater began, it was by chance, actually. I was a visual artist growing up. That was a lot of my background. And when I got to it was actually randomly middle school, secondary school. I took a chance on an elective and ended up really liking it. And then I continued on into my high school. But my love for directing was developed my sophomore year of high school. I worked under a director that just consistently put out really incredible work that was changing me personally as like a young what's the word that you would call it, uh, when you're not at peace,
Mm,
a child who is not at peace. He was doing a lot of work that I feel like really brought me into the world and taught me a lot about myself. I found that theater was a way for me to learn life lessons,
hmm
and sort of like morality lessons. Um, Yeah, so that's really where my love of theater began. I'm also from Houston, Texas,
hmm
and the theater scene, a lot of the theater scene when I was growing up, as well as the entertainment scene, was primarily based in found spaces. And so I developed a real love for that kind of theater, coming into an abandoned warehouse and looking at what we could do with the space and
mm,
getting really creative with stuff like that. Um, yeah, so I think that was it leads into the work that we do now as well.
Oh, fantastic. And then Ulana, where did your love of theatre begin?
That is also a great question because that was very random experience for me. I did not, unfortunately, I'm kind of ashamed to say it, but when I was back in Ukraine, in my entire life, I only saw two plays.
Wow.
And they were I was there with my teacher who took my entire class to go see a play, and I did not really enjoy them that much. I
hmm
just saw them. And so then I was always singing since I was 4 years old. I graduated from music college back in Ukraine with an associate degree of a pop singer. And then at the same time I kind of entered an acting studio, but to learn English better
hmm
because the acting studio for whatever reason was taught in English. And I was like, this is a great way to practice your language and kind
Mm.
of like, get new skills. And I stayed there for 3 years, and by the end of the 3 years, my teacher was like, "You should apply to America." And I said, "Okay." And it pretty much was it. And then I applied to a couple of schools that somebody recommended to me. And in my mind, I really wanted to study musical theater because I thought that's what I want to do with my
hmm
life. Because it kind of united both music and acting, which I loved by that point. And thank God I didn't get accepted to any of musical theater programs. Because it really isn't the thing that I want to do that much. I love musical theater, but it really just drove me to um, UNCSA, the school in Winston-Salem where I met Lily and a bunch of other incredible artists, and where I studied the last 4 years. We just graduated, and I feel like it was meant to be, and this was exactly the place where I was supposed to end up.
hmm
And it was an acting program, and I thought it, now I can see that it prepared me really well. For the world of theater,
hmm
as well as like on camera world of acting, but just like the arts. And I feel like if I went to a musical theater program, I wouldn't be just as well.
Mm. Sort of
Uh,
prepared.
yes, so
Mm.
it really was meant to be, but it was kind of just a chain of random events. I never
Mm.
was planning on this.
So sticking with you then, so how did the writing start? How did you get into writing your own pieces?
So at the same time as I was in that group of actors, we had our teacher at that point had a she got a scholarship to go to got a Fulbright scholarship, so she studied at NYU for like a year at some
Wow.
point. So she had some connections, and she met a manager whose wife was a writing mentor, and she just connected us and was like, do you guys want to get a course on screenwriting? And we obviously were all very excited
hmm
for that. Um, and so we got that course, we studied for 4 weeks, and then 2 weeks later, the war started. And suddenly it was just very, like, I didn't think anymore about acting or theater or anything else. I just wanted to be home with my family. But that teacher, whose name is Laura Cahill, she brought us all back together. She was just like, "Do you guys want to get on Zoom and talk?" And she offered us writing, which to me, seemed like therapy of
Hmm.
kind at that point. And I just really felt like I needed to share everything that I've been going through
Hmm.
in the moment and put that to writing. And it just stayed. We kept meeting every week and we kept writing plays and things were happening with it. Like we wrote a bunch of 10-minute plays and then we did like online play festival, a
Hmm.
Zoom reading, and somebody came and saw the play and was like, "Oh, I want to put that up in Sweden Orient Theater in Stockholm." And we were like, "Oh, that's
Wow.
great. Let's do that." But none of this was ever a plan. I really was not
Hmm.
even interested in writing. It just kind of um truly just happened, and I kept finding things to share, and they
Hmm.
kept finding, like, I kept finding the outlet in writing it. Yes.
Yeah, amazing. So then going to Lily, then obviously we it was mentioned there that you kind of bumped into each other through sort of location, but what makes you guys work as a team? What's the thing that makes you work so well?
Um, I think the thing that makes us work so well, it's
In
something that
pretty.
I'm really, huh? Sorry,
In pretty.
Totally.
we have that in common. No, um, I think something that was really helpful was that we were friends before
Hmm.
we started working together. I am personally, I like to mix business with pleasure
Hmm.
in terms of I love to work with my friends. I think that the people that you work with become a chosen family of sorts. And so I think that a wonderful part of our relationship, especially because this play is so intimate. It's a
Hmm.
one woman show, right? And so really most of the time it's just me and her in the room. And she's wearing multiple hats as a writer and the actress in it. Um, and me as the technician and the director. I think that this foundation of friendship that we have makes communication a lot easier. And I feel like we're both not as worried about stepping on each
Mm.
other's toes because we know that we both have the best interest at heart for the piece. And secondary, which might be more important, is that we're very aligned artistically in our artistic values. Specifically for this piece, I've been, we just graduated, and so I've been having to do a lot of rewriting of, my personal statement for what the
Mm.
art is that I love to make. And this is also kind of coming back to the original, what made you love theater. I found that something that was really important to me. I'm the child of two immigrants. My father is from Iran and my mom is from Mexico. And
Mm.
so a lot of the work that I do has a really strong focus on immigration and displacement. This last year, I've already done like two different plays that were about different wars. And so I think that we have a lot in common in terms of the genre
Mm.
of the pieces that we do. And because this was so close to home for her, I hope that working with me, she felt like she could trust me with that
Hmm.
kind of work. And me personally, like understanding the displacement side of things, um, understanding how important it is to carry this piece with care, and the utmost, like the best research that
Mm.
you can do.
Yeah. So going back to Uliana, then, so where did the idea of Seledka come from? How did that start?
I've spent the last 4 years in America. I've been going back and forth to Ukraine, because that's where my family lives. I still technically live in Ukraine. Um, so I was gifted with seeing both worlds
Hmm.
go through their lives, and I seen how much joy as much as sorrow there is in my home, and how much, like, how people deal with the reality with so much love for the world and life, how the community has not only survived but really like come together to
Mm.
deal with the reality of today. Um, and all that time I was still studying in America and seeing none of that being really talked
Mm.
about or dealt with in any way. And that just made me very sad.
Mm.
And Lily and I another reason for the good partnership, as Lily said, like we are aligned artistically, but not only that, we just spent many, many hours talking about my home, Lily's home, our families, what our lives have been, what our parents went through,
Mm,
be where we are right now. And so I just felt like I needed to share, and that's tying back the question about like why writing is that there were just things that I needed to share and
mm,
didn't know how. So in our school we have this wonderful program for fourth years. It's called Keys to the Kingdom, where all fourth years get an opportunity to perform, offer a play, write a play, direct. It all has to be produced by
mm.
seniors, but you can be in any sort of job when you're producing this play. And I wasn't asked to do anything for any of my friends. And I felt very sad about that. And so I was like, I guess I have to do something on my own. And as the summer was ending, I was like, oh my God, nobody's asking me. It's just not happening. And so in the last 2 weeks, I've just kind of sat down and I expanded the idea that I had in my devised class with
Mhm.
Autumn Marple, our incredible teacher,
Incredible
who,
teacher.
yes, truly, he made us all write one-person shows for like 8-minute one-person show for our final assignment. And when I was doing that, I was just like, there's so much I want to say.
Mm,
However, I think if I just stand up and lecture people as a Ukrainian, that would be just annoying because it's kind of like another news headliner that is like, did you know what's happening in Ukraine? And that's not fun.
mhm,
So I thought I need to come up with a way to really hook people
mhm,
and then make them question what do they really know to be true. Um, and that's how kind of the character came to life. I just was like, if I make myself a Russian general, being a Ukrainian myself, and everybody in my school knows that I'm Ukrainian, that will would already create a lot of dissonance
mm,
and make people really listen to what I have to say. And kind of a fun hook that I came up with was having a whole map of the world on the big screen and asking people, where do you think Ukraine is? And then watching everybody not
mhm,
know where Ukraine is. The people who've spent 4 years of their lives with me and know me very well. And I know that however much they love me, they still are
mhm,
very ignorant to what that world is like. So it just was a great kind of reminder, but at the same time, like inspiration for me to be like, oh, this doesn't need to be just an 8-minute piece. That has to have a full life because there's so much I need to share and so
mhm,
many perspectives of war, so many different worldviews even within Ukraine that like not everybody thinks the same of war or of
mhm,
fighting or of being a soldier, and I can't fit that in an 8-minute piece, but I think it really has to exist.
mhm.
So I called Lily, and I told Lily about the idea, and Lily was like, that sounds great. Let's do this. And so it just came to life, and then we've been working on it ever since then.
Oh, amazing. So where did the name come from, Seledka? What's the origin of that?
Lily, would you like to take that over?
Oh, would I? Would I like to take that over? I mean, it's a Russian word for pickled herring.
Mhm.
In terms of origin, I'm gonna let the writer speak to that.
I honestly, that is a great question. I was just talking to my friend at whose house I'm staying, and he was like, "Are you sure it's a great name for the play?" And I was like, "Nope, but going with it." It's a dish. It's the name of a dish, pickled herring. I didn't even know that that's what it's called in English, but it's just a dish that most people in post-Soviet Union countries either love or hate.
Mhm,
I love it, but many people really despise it and can't even like think of it. And I was just like, it would be such a funny name for a very important general to be named a fish, and take that name very seriously.
Especially a fish that you could like or dislike.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Like it's very reminiscent of the nature of the play in that the audience kind of gets to decide whose side they're on.
Mm. Totally. So, Lily, obviously, you mentioned earlier that it is a one-person production. So does that change the way you view directing then, and actually taking the scenes to the stage?
Yes, yes, that is a wonderful, wonderful question because yes, that is I feel like that's been the majority of um my directing process on this play has been a lot of experimentation and trying to figure out what is helpful because I'm sorry, excuse me, a lot of the training that I received is going after a want, right? Like
Mhm.
instilling in an actor going after an objective and getting them to make decisions that they surprise themselves with depending on how what reaction that they get from the other in their scene, right? But when you don't have a scene
Mhm.
partner, that becomes really different. And therefore, I have found myself as a director having to be stimuli for her. That there are parts in the show where audience interaction occurs, and I'll have to get up and I'll theorize a bunch of different ways, like 20 different versions of the way that the scene can go in
Mhm.
order for us to be as prepared as we possibly can be for what could happen in the space. So there's like there are honestly a couple of different layers to how my normal directing style has changed
Mhm.
because I think that number one, the one person structure is very different. I think a lot of the work that we did in the beginning was really isolating different characters and making them look physically different, vocally different, that the tactical range that they're using is different. But then there's also the audience participation, which I had kind of talked about, where it's like, you know, you need to theorize different ways,
Mm.
bring in test audiences as much as you can to work these moments that can derail the whole play
Mhm.
if we're not prepared for what happens. And then I think that there's another aspect that is working with a new playwright, you know, on a
Mhm.
play that is ever changing and ever evolving. And so I think a big part of our collaboration and communication has to be when are we wearing what hats?
Mhm.
And so that we don't, you know, get confused just within ourselves. It can get very overwhelming. Um, yeah, and with a play that is ever changing on a topic that is progressing every day and so big and
Mhm.
complicated and nuanced as it is, there are so many different roads that you can take and there's so many different things that you want to touch on and information that you want to speak. So it's really dictated that process. But I think as a director, a good director looks at every process that they have and their process should always be different.
Mm, yeah, totally. And obviously, we've talked about the journey of the show and the building and putting it together. But obviously, you got a fairly exciting announcement recently-ish that you are heading to the Edinburgh Fringe, the world's biggest theatre festival. So, what was it like getting that sort of notification, that message?
This is a great story, actually. This is a really funny story. We were on showcase because we were in university at the time. We're just recently graduated, and the actors and directors go on a showcase to a bunch of different cities in order to try and get management and future job opportunities. And we were in Washington, D.C.
In Chicago.
Chicago. I'm so sorry, Chicago. I was thinking in Washington for another big announcement that we had gone. But we were in Chicago and it was the morning of the actor showcase. And it was a schedule send that got sent at 8 a.m. on the dot. And I remember Uliao and I were roommates and we were lying in bed talking about something at like 7:40 in the morning and it hit 8 o'clock and we were like, all right, let's get up. And then we both heard the ting and we were like, no way. No way.
But the thing is that when we received those great news, all the rest of our friends who also applied for the same grant
Yeah.
also received the scheduled email at 8 a.m. Not so much with great news. And so it was like lots of celebration, but at the same time being
Mm.
like we get to do this and some other of our friends who we really believe in don't. So it was just like nice to be with each other, but at the same time learning so much about how we can support our friends who don't get to do this
Mhm.
this year, but you know.
Especially on a day of such pressure. It
Mm.
was the first showcase for them, so it definitely threw a loop. But I think everybody handled it with grace and
Oh,
did
very
their
well.
best foot forward and really, really brought it that day.
That is
Mm.
really the shout out to our classmates and community because throughout all these years, I think everybody has been very supportive and being like happy for the person who like, you know, succeeds
Mm.
in something, even if they wanted that too. But like people just put a lot of effort into helping each other, which I really admire.
So after sort of getting that sort of exciting announcement and the sort of range of emotions you were feeling, supporting friends and, consoling others, obviously, did the pressure suddenly set in of, oh, we've actually got to take this now to the biggest theatre festival in the world as your
Yeah.
debut, your debut at the Fringe? Did the pressure kind of hit after a while?
Oh, immediately. Immediately. I think the thing. Sorry, you go, Lily.
No, 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 no. Please, please. I don't want to interrupt you. I have
Well,
a thought
it
after.
it was just like, oh, we have to do this now. Uh, because as exciting as it is, it's also very scary. And we
Mhm.
just got off our production meeting like an hour ago. We also have another group of our friends who also received the same great news the same day. Our school and Keenan Institute for the Arts is funding two plays to go. So it's luckily
Oh.
not just us, so we have a bigger team because Lily and I are the only two people on Seledka team. But the other play, 45 Minutes, has eight people in their crew. And
Hmm.
luckily, we are all going together and helping each other and going through this for the first time together. But yes, we just got off our production meeting and we were like, oh, so there is so much we need to get done. And
Hmm.
it's just two of us, and nobody else is gonna do it. So we gotta lock in. Um, and it's very exciting, but honestly, even like putting up a budget for this play, I learned so much, and I was like,
Hmm.
oh, this is how Excel sheet works.
Yes.
No,
I
truly.
I need to know that.
You're
Um,
um no, I completely agree. 45 minutes is the show that is going with us. We're kind of yeah, we've both been sent by Keenan Institute for the Arts in collaboration with Producer Hub as a fiscal sponsor. So really, really huge shout out and thank you to them. It would not be possible at
Hmm.
all whatsoever without them. Like endlessly, endlessly grateful. Yeah, the other show is called 45 Minutes by Katie Gavin, our close friend. She wrote and directed it. So guys, go see that also.
I believe I'm
Um,
also chatting to them as well this week.
okay.
Beautiful. Well, that's amazing. Well, I hope they anyways, but the thought that I was going to mention was that yes, the pressure got the pressure totally increased. It was a completely different ball game once we had heard that news. But I think coming off of the first production, initial production that we had done at school, it had received such a great it had such a great receival and we had
Mhm.
gotten great feedback from it. I felt pretty confident after we went to showcase, however, me and Ulia did a couple of performances in the different cities. We did one in DC, we did one in New York, and then we did another one in North Carolina. We decided that while we were on showcase, we were going to take advantage of that and
Mhm.
rent out some venues and see what we could do with that outreach. And I think that really started the learning process of what it means to take a show on the road. You
Mhm.
know, the nature of Fringe is that shows come in and out. You have 10 minutes to set up all of your tech and let
Wow.
your house in most times. So it's you have to be able to pack a show up in a suitcase and get it done as quickly as possible. And I think that we've been in the thick of the learning process of, like, what do we need? I think it's a wonderful question to start asking ourselves as we're in this post graduation
Mhm.
life now. What are the things that we all need to stay level headed, especially with such a small team that we have? So yeah, the pressure really increased, but it's a well worth challenge that I think that we've been really excited to tackle. I mean,
Mm.
what I wouldn't rather be under this much stress for anything else.
Mm.
Yes,
Does
True.
yes.
that make sense?
It really is a gift to care so much about the work that
Mhm.
you're doing because then it's like, well, we have to do it no matter what, not just because somebody's paying us because nobody's paying us, but we have to do this because we believe in what we have to say.
Yeah.
Exactly. I think like really, really, I can't echo that enough. Something that I went to a talk recently, but with this photographer in Houston, and he was talking about how we choose to represent the communities. Like
Mhm.
he takes photographs of rural Black communities in Texas and the South, and he was talking about what we as artists, what our intention is with the work, and the intention should always be to honor the communities that you're talking about and trying to uplift. And so I think every time I get stressed or worried, I just think about the people that we're trying to
Hmm.
uplift and give representation to, and that provides a greater sense of purpose, and a fire that is not just for myself, a selfish fire.
Yeah, totally, totally. So we are coming to the end of my questions. I do have a couple more though. So for people, I know we've talked about the show so far, but how would you describe the show to someone who's not heard of it before?
That's great. Um, I would describe the show to somebody who hasn't ever seen it before as, I'll give you my log line. I'll give
Hmm.
you my log line. In the name of Russia, General Seledka and his new troop, hopefully including you, are here to end the war. His goal is to make sure that his soldiers eat, bleed, and sleep Soviet. However, his meeting gets hijacked by a bunch of Ukrainian women recounting their day to day lives of the war. That is how I would describe it.
Mm,
I think it's a fun, punchy time that start. That's a bad. It's not. It's fun and it's punchy until it really cuts you with
yeah.
seriousness.
Oh, fantastic. So if people like the sound of the show, then where can they get tickets and where can they stay up to date with both of you?
Yes, okay, you can get tickets on Paradise Green's website as well as Zoo programming. And we both have Instagram if that's what you're asking
Yeah.
about. Great.
Yes, yeah.
Um, Great, yeah. Well, my handle is Lily Afghani, like the name in the corner, and Ulya's is
It's
Ulya.
Julia 31 Klim, which is ULIA 31 KLIM.
Oh,
Yes.
fantastic. I'll put the links in the comments below so people can scroll down and click away.
We can also email them to you.
Yeah, that'd be fantastic. But my final question, and obviously I'll start with Lily first and then I'll move over. But what advice do you have for young performers looking to do what you do?
That, guys, I love that question. Self-produce.
Hmm.
Self-produce. I truly, truly, truly believe in the power of self-producing. Every year that I was over the summer, just had nothing to do, I would self-produce. It's always the most rewarding thing ever because at the end of the day, the work that you want to do might not be the work that is produced.
Hmm.
So give yourself a chance because
Fabulous.
no one's going to give it to you.
Mhm.
You kind of stole my phrasing. I was gonna say, yes, if somebody's not giving you something you want, just do it yourself.
Hmm.
But the other one is, I think don't be afraid of asking questions because it's bad assumption to think people would be like, oh my God, this is weird. Why don't you know it? People love answering questions and
Hmm.
helping out. And I found that when I'm asking questions and sincerely hoping for an answer, people, it just not only it brings answers that you need, but it also brings new people into your life.
Yeah, totally.
If I can actually, I'm so sorry. I hate to interrupt.
It's
I
all
just
right.
had one more thought on things
Mhm.
that young artists should know. And this isn't even exclusive to young artists. I think it's to everybody, but young artists in particular, you need to know what you believe.
Mhm.
Know what you believe in a time like right now where people are going to try and stuff propaganda down your throat, and with technology and the internet you can lie so easily.
Mhm.
It's so important to have your own opinions, especially as artists. Your job gets dictated a lot of the time by what other people want you to do.
Mhm.
So you need to have your own set of belief systems so that you don't compromise yourself and end up doing something that you regret or speaking up for something that you regret.
Yeah, totally. So I started the interview by saying it, but I'll end the same way. Thank you so much for both taking the time out to sit down and chat with me. Obviously, as I said, I'll drop the links in the comments below so people can scroll down and click away. But I also wish you the best of luck at Edinburgh, and I shall speak to you both soon.